Sport movement. Thank you all for taking time out this evening and coming out for this public hearing. I recognize a lot of faces from some of our information meetings. There we talked about, there's a very informal information meeting previously where we had a lot of discussion, a lot of questions, and we talked about this formal public hearing. The public hearing is part of the assessment project or process, and we follow the Ohio Revised Code 6117, their Ohio Revised Code, and it's a lot more formal than what the previous information meetings have been. So what will happen is we'll go through an agenda, I'll read a report on the project, and then everybody will have an opportunity to speak and say whether they're in favor of the project or object to the project if they wish. If you don't wish to speak tonight, there will be written comments, endorsements and objections accepted for 1 week until next Thursday at 4:30. So if you prefer to send it in that way, I have some information here on where to send that. You can send it by mail, you can drop it off at the Commissioner's office, or you can email any comments that you might have. It's very important that you come up to the microphone to speak. We'll give everybody a chance to come up. We have a stenographer here. The meeting will be transcribed. And we need to make sure, again, just to make sure you come up to the microphone to make any comments that you have. With that, I'm going to, Mayor Potter, say a few words, and then we'll start the meeting.
Good evening, everyone. Oh, a little close. Hello? Okay. Thanks for coming out again. Good to see a lot of faces I obviously recognize and a few new ones. But thank you to Randy, thank you to Commissioner Hammercheck, Mayor Tyler, I'm sorry, I call him Mayor Tyler still, Commissioner Tyler, Mr. Finaro, our Public Works Director, and Doug Courtney for being up here tonight. You know, Doug and Randy and Joe have done a ton of work over the last couple of years. You know, I'm sure we'll give a little history, and a lot of you guys know the history already. In 2014, I think it started, the health department was alerted to the issues in Old Town, came out and started doing some testing, then followed up with some letters to residents to try to do more testing. And it ultimately, in 2018, I think it was, turned it over to the Ohio EPA. And so from that point, we ended up getting findings and orders, and it is 2020 in the fall, or was it 21? The orders were in the fall of 20, I think. Yeah, the orders were signed in the fall of 20. Anyhow, so with those orders, they came, you know, the Old Town area, the affected area of this, you know, sewers are going to be mandated. So not great news to a lot of us. Obviously, we've heard a lot about very high and exorbitant costs. I promised all of you, whether it was on a campaign trail or standing up here last year, that I would do everything I could and knock as many doors and make as many phone calls to the offices of commissioners and state reps and state senators and congresspeople and U.S. senators. And certainly we've done a lot of that, and there's more to do, but when I reached out to specifically Commissioner Plechnik last spring, and I asked if he could meet me at City Hall. And I asked the question, or I basically said, hey, listen, here's what our residents are looking at. This is the cost that we're hearing right now. You know, nobody can afford, hardly anyone can afford this. And how can you guys help? And so the commissioners, they went back and they got together, and they did produce $1 million of a grant for the city of Kirtland, specifically for the Old Town sewer. So that $1 million is going to come right off the top of this project. So I want to thank them for their hard work on that and their commitment. Also, there's a CDBG grant that's going to come available for some of the lower income folks when we get a little bit closer to the time of tie-ins and hookups. We do have, now this is not formal, this is what I'm about to say next, but it is registered in the federal budget in the Department of Interior through Congressman Joyce's office. Again, through a lot of conversations and letters and phone calls and meetings with the congressman and his people, we did get $820,000 committed to this project as part of the federal budget. Now, again, that is not formalized yet because the federal government is doing what the federal government does well, and that is not passing budgets and kind of kicking cans down the road. So our hope is that that budget passes and that earmark ultimately comes back to the Old Town folks. But for now, we can't count those dollars. But obviously, it would make another huge, significant difference. So, we'll talk about the timeline and all of this tonight. But what I want to reassure everyone here is that we are going to keep knocking doors. We're going to keep having those conversations. We'll keep fighting for you guys to to bring this cost down the best we can. And so thank you to everyone that's out here tonight. We are actually recording the meeting tonight, so neighbors, friends, or if you missed something tonight or you want to go back and revisit what you may have heard, it'll be on our city YouTube channel. So make sure you pass that along to the folks that weren't able to make it tonight. So thanks to all of you for being here, and I'm going to pass it back to Randy.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one other item. If you have specific questions about your property, we will stay afterwards as long as anybody wants. We have a set of plans here, improvement plans, and myself or Doug, Courtney, will help out with any specific questions you have about your property, or you can call during the week and that sort of thing. So just to let you know that specific questions we'll handle after we wrap up the meeting. All right. With that, we're going to start the public hearing, and I'll turn it over to Commissioner Hammercheck.
Randy, thank you, and Mayor, thank you. But more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking the time to come out tonight. The procedure for the public hearing. This public hearing is being called to order by the Lake County Board of Commissioners. The Lake County Board of Commissioners welcomes the residents of Kirtland Old Town area. This hearing will be conducted according to the rules established in Chapter 6117 of the Ohio Revised Code. The primary purpose of this hearing is for the board to hear endorsements and/or objections to the proposed special assessment of the properties for the construction and installation of sanitary sewers, sanitary main, together with related improvements and all necessary appurtenances thereto, comprising the Kirtland Old Town Sanitary Sewer Project 445-S. Randy Roethlisberger, sanitary engineer, will read a description of the proposed project for the record. Randy?
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. The Kirtland Old Town Sanitary Sewer Improvement consists of approximately 8,300 feet of 8-inch diameter sanitary sewer main and all necessary appurtenances. It will provide sanitary sewer service to Eisenhower Drive, Elm Street, Joseph Street, Maple Street, Audrey Street, and Fairview Avenue. The project will be completed in 2 phases between May 2023 and December of 2024. The estimated project cost is $3,831,000. The Lake County Board of Commissioners has committed $1 million towards this project, and the City of Kirtland has secured a grant in the amount of $250,000, reducing the amount of the tentative assessment to $19,557.28 per house connection or potential house connection. When the final costs are calculated at the end of the project, property owners will be notified of the final assessment amount in the mail. This amount cannot be greater than the tentative assessment previously mentioned. There will be a 30-day cash payment period after which bonds will be sold and the unpaid assessments together with bond interest will be placed on the real estate taxes to be collected over a 20-year period. In addition to the costs associated with the local service improvement, the property owner is responsible for the installation of the private sanitary sewer from the right-of-way to the house. At the time of this connection, there is a capacity fee due of $5,571.64 per single-family residence. This amount represents the pro rata share of the capital expense of the wastewater treatment plant, trunk mains, pump stations, and forest mains. I'll have a copy of this report up front if anybody wants to take that with them tonight. And it also has the written endorsement and objection locations of how you can submit things.
Thank you, Randy. The Board of Commissioners will now hear from any property owner whose property is proposed to be assessed for the project, which may include objections to the endorsement or endorsements of the project, the character and termina of the project, the boundaries, and the assessment district of the tentative assessments for the project. The following rules have been established for the presentation of endorsements and/or objections to the project. Each person may speak or be heard through an agent. Each person wishing to speak shall state their name and address in full. All comments shall be made at the microphone. And at this time, I say, is there anyone wishing to make comments at this time? Please come on down. Now you're going to make this way too easy for us now. Oh my goodness. All right, so I'm going to say, oh, okay, come on, thank you. Have you worried there?
And I come back more than once. I didn't come prepared with a speech or anything, so.
Okay, I'm going to insert your name for the record.
Larry W. Spence.
Thank you, sir.
7756 Fairview Drive. Mr. Commissioner, Randy, former mayor, and I've talked to Doug several times. I read over the last information I received in the mail, and it appears that, if I understand it correctly, all of the hookups will be east of Fairview and Calgary. So Joseph Street east of Fairview, Calgary, and Maple Street east of Calgary, my understanding will not be hooked up. Also, Bluff Street, Fair Ridge Drive, and Timothy are not to be hooked up. Is that correct?
That is correct. Fair Ridge.
Fair Ridge and Calgary East.
Calgary East? No, all of Calgary is east on Joseph.
But I'm saying Joseph Street and Calgary, or Joseph Street and Maple Street, east of Calgary, will not be hooked up.
I don't have the map clear in my head, but any serviceable property east of Fairview on Maple or Joseph is getting service. If they're not getting service, it's likely they're already tied to the sewer on 306.
Well, they're not. I can say that emphatically.
And so we can look at the maps after the meeting, and I can show you how things are going to work if you need to.
Because Timothy Lane is definitely not.
Well, Timothy Lane is not a public street,
Oh, granted, I understand that.
so, and Bluff is not.
But don't they still contribute to any kind of leaching that may go into the Chagrin?
I don't know. The study areas that were conducted by the health department when they were referred to the EPA, he did not include Timothy in that group, so.
Now, also my understanding is that, now correct me if I'm wrong, 140 residences are involved, residents or lots?
132, I believe.
Okay, and 40 of those, my understanding from, I believe talking to you, Doug, 40 of those were actually inspected.
If that's what I told you when I had the inspection work.
And 20% of those failed. So that means 80% of them passed.
Okay.
Is that the criteria for the county or the EPA?
I love him because he was involved with when it was being.
So yes, Mr. Spence, that is correct. I think all residents in that affected area were sent letters from the health department requesting inspections.
That's right.
I don't know if the number was 40 or 50 or 55, but your math is, I think, generally correct, and the amount of failures inside of that is a percentage, right? Of those 50 or so that did sign up for testing. The health department sent out a couple of inquiries. I know that the past administration sent out another inquiry at the kind of recommendation and behest of a lot of us to say, hey, residents, it behooves everyone to get as much information as we can attain here to make a good decision, right? And so there wasn't much more, not many more people at that point had signed up for testing. So at that point, the health department seemingly kind of said, okay, well, at this point, we're not getting enough participation, we're going to turn this over to the EPA, and that's what they did. And so then the EPA came out with their findings, they came out with their orders, they delivered to the city of Kirtland, and kind of the rest is history. And once that happens, we don't have, the city of Kirtland, there's nothing we can do to fight that process and to say, hey, can we go backwards and do something different? Because believe me, in those conversations, earliest days in my term over here, you're having this conversation with the EPA, and the answer was always no. You know, we can't go backwards. What we're dealing with today is what we're dealing with. The best we can do is talk about timeline. And so, you know, that's how we all ended up here tonight.
So basically, the county threw us under the bus. I received a letter saying that if you did not get your septic system tested the first time, you'll receive another letter giving you an opportunity to do that. Well, I never received the same letter. Now, some of you know my predicament, why I was not here to have my septic tank tested in the first place. I know, Mayor, you know why. And I think it was ridiculous that the county did not mandate that we have our system tested and have each individual person that had a failure have that corrected instead of sending it to the Ohio EPA. Now, I know it's mandated already, there's nothing I can do, but I just have to get my frustrations out because it's so ridiculous how it was handled by the county.
Sir, if I may,
Yes.
in defense of the county, we have to follow the guidance from the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA. They're the authority having jurisdiction. We are the ones who are beholden to their guidance. We cannot tell them what to do, they tell us what to do.
So they told you
Sir,
to turn
sir, this is not a debate, and if you're going to be able to, the questions and answers are at a different time. Today is for hearing endorsements or objections. So if you could frame your statements in the form of an endorsement or objection. Again, this is a formal hearing in this process. I have to, and I apologize, but I have to stick to chapter 6117 of the Ohio Revised Code. I apologize for the formality associated with this, but I have to comply with the law as well. So questions and answers afterwards would be fine, but right now.
Is it going to be, the questions and answers going to be for everyone, or is it going to be individual?
Sir, if you wish to have the microphone afterwards, if they want to leave the sound system on, I have no control over this building. But right now, sir, I apologize, but I know there have been other opportunities for these questions to be asked, to be answered, and for you to be saying that the county commissioner somehow, or the county somehow, has authority over the EPA is just wrong, sir.
No, I understand that, they do not.
Sir,
But they should have given the residents.
This is not a debate, sir. I apologize.
I object.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, anyone else wishing to offer endorsements or objections? Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Steve Kyle. I live at 7685 Fairview Drive. I would like to ask for clarification on one of the items. Why is Bluff Street and Fair Ridge not included in the Old Town project?
Hello? Okay. Fair Ridge and Bluff were not included in the original orders from the EPA, and their stormwater flow goes in a different direction from the rest of the neighborhood. Bluff goes out towards Saxon, Fair Ridge goes south before it gets to Fairview Caudry intersection. So those were excluded for those two reasons. They weren't in the orders from the EPA, and their stormwater flow does not contribute to where the problem area was identified.
May I follow up with another question?
Sure.
So then, in your opinion, what happens when their sewers fail?
Well, if their sewers fail to the point that it's a problem, then eventually they'll have to be sewered when their septics fail. I don't know if or when that would occur. but
Fair
that would be our
Ridge being a much newer, I can understand, but Bluff Street is a very old street. So so that they will deal with that when their sewers fail.
when there's an issue.
Okay? Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Mr. Kyle, support or object?
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Anyone else wishing to offer endorsement or objections? Anyone else wishing to offer endorsements or objections? Anyone else wishing to offer endorsements or objections? Okay, seeing none. We have received, my apology. Have we received any written endorsements or objections? Indicating we have not, thank you. The Board of County Commissioners will not make a decision on the proposed project until at least 5 days have lapsed, which time is allowed to receive written endorsements and/or objections from any property owners. Such written endorsements and/or objections must include the name and address of the correspondent and will be received by the clerk of the Lake County Board of Commissioners until 4:30 p.m. on November 3rd of 2022. Written endorsements and/or objections may be submitted to 105 Main Street, 5th floor, Building A, Painesville, Ohio, and that'd be mailed to 105 Main Street, P.O. Box 490, Painesville, Ohio, 44077, and the +4 is 0490, or emailed to lcdueng@lakecounty.ohio.gov. If there's nothing else to come before us today, we will adjourn this public hearing. Again, thank you for joining us here this evening.
Thank you. This concludes the meeting. I do have handouts here that'll be over on the sign-in sheet that have those addresses where you can email or mail or drop off. Thank you all for coming.